Um, I met you just a couple of days ago, and right away was struck by the fact that you bring, a relatively unique perspective. Everybody here in Davos that's attending is in general a little, optimistic about AI. Right? We're bullish on AI. We think AI can do great things, and it can. But if you go outside of Davos here in Switzerland and ask 100 people how they feel about AI, positive or negative, or anywhere in Europe, or actually in the US, more than half the people are pretty negative about AI. And we have to keep reminding ourselves that. And so you have an amazing background, and I'd like you to do a brief intro. I'm sure you've done it several times today, but it's not just impressive, but it's distinct, right? It's a bit different. Background in criminology. You're a professor at UVA. By the way, I graduated from high school in Virginia. I spent some time at Jefferson's University and been at on the lawn and the rotunda, right?
Wonderful.
Yeah, it was beautiful, beautiful campus.
Beautiful Charlottesville.
Yeah, very nice. So tell us, briefly, just because you've had such a long career, tell us the point in your career when all of a sudden AI started to rise up to the point where you're like, you know what, I'm going to start focusing on AI. Tell us that transition.
Definitely. And thank you so very much. Thank you, of course, for the champagne. All my life, I was waiting on Oprah and Barbara Walters, and here I am in Davos with you with champagne. So this is spectacular.
Yeah.
So for me, it really was criminology and using algorithms in the U.S. criminal justice system for quite some time. Using these algorithms in the criminal justice system for quite some time. And it really struck me because I was doing an assessment on some juveniles, and the algorithms are what we use to build these risk assessment tools that decides the trajectory of someone's life course. And I realized that I was seeing young people who deserved a chance, and the algorithms were giving me these zombie predictions, this old school 1980s super predator kind of concept. And I'm saying this is not real.
About what year roughly was this?
This was over 10 or 12 years
Okay,
ago.
all right.
I also was doing a lot of training for police agencies internationally because as a criminologist, I specialize in policing, police leadership, and the homicide investigation.
Okay.
And homicide rates are the ultimate when we think about data science, police departments trying to reduce crime, always coming up with the numbers of how they're going to reinvent certain communities and just never getting the results. AI, algorithms, data continuously overpromising and underdelivering.
Okay.
So working with these juveniles and realizing there was a total disconnect between who I was engaging with and what the data was showing me, what the risk assessment tools were saying, that really made me want to investigate these algorithms. So I took all my investigative skills and I started to interrogate algorithms, right? And it really, I had to go deeper. I had to go to the data. And then I started to realize the historical challenges attached to data and the data that was used to build these data sets that were now making these life-changing, life-altering decisions. And at that moment, I realized that, wait a minute, I had to step in, step up, and say something. And that is the work that actually sent me to UVA because they brought me in as their first data activist in residence. And from doing that work and working of intersection of criminology, policing, national security, and justice, that really woke me up to the beauty of this technology. Because at that moment, I said, instead of doing this to look at risk, why don't we do this to build better protective factors, to see the resources that are being missed, using the data to help build up lives instead of undermining lives?
That's a great story. Absolutely. Whenever I'm talking, you should feel free to be drinking. That's our little play here. Okay. I might do the same.
Okay.
Next time you're talking, I might do a little more. So I want to go forward from there, but just one quick step back, because a lot of the viewers won't know what you meant when you said that you were seeing the algorithms make life-changing decisions for these young people. So what was that had to do with sentencing, or what kind of life-changing decisions were you referring to?
Judges The judiciary in general, lawyers, everyone's looking at these risk assessment tools. These risk assessment tools are public safety decision
Right,
makers,
right.
deciding who gets to leave the criminal justice system, who stays in the criminal justice system, who gets what kind of resources when they leave, who do not get the resources, who gets a second chance on life,
Right.
and who may not get a second chance on life.
So whenever we in AI think about a decision that's made with the help of AI, like this one, we try to look at the impact of the decision. And there's one beautiful. Did you know there's millions and millions of people that are really into birds? A special breed of people. I'm not one of them, but there are a lot of them. And there's a bird feeder now that you can put in your backyard. It has a camera. It's connected with Wi-Fi, and it uses AI to identify the birds, and it sends you a little text, and you can get, hey, a yellow-breasted swallow just landed in your backyard. Same kind of model is used to make predictions of not what kind of bird it is, but what kind of sentence someone should get. But the impact is so different, right? In other words, if you get the bird wrong, who cares? If you sentence somebody the wrong way, it can ruin somebody's life, right? Destroy someone's life. So that we put a human in the loop. And so there was a human in the loop. I'm coming to the question. There was a human in the loop, the judge. Did you find that the human in the loop wasn't enough, that because they're so busy, they just started blindly following what the algorithm recommended? Or why didn't the human in the loop work? Because usually it's good to have it, but it sounds like it wasn't really working.
I think because of the comfort of technology. And we always hear that it's statistics, it's the numbers, the computer. This is the decision that the computer made. It's neutral. It's about numbers. It's about math. But we soon realize that it's not about numbers. It's not about math. AI is not neutral. Data is not neutral. I always say data has a memory much longer than its computational value. Data carries with it a memory
Sure.
of every decision that has been made. What we realize, and we're realizing now even more, our judges, our judiciary, our lawyers, our leaders, our politicians, they need to be upskilled in real time with this technology,
Right.
because they really don't understand what are these algorithms? What are these algorithms doing? Now they're asking about this Gen AI and what is this? Because they're not understanding about the data set, the depth of the data set, what's being retained in the data, and how it's making an impact. So it's more about a human in the loop. It's about a human in the loop who understands what's happening
Right.
in the loop.
Yep. That's a beautiful comment. I help companies develop their AI strategy and implement it. And part of that is, of course, is education. So I recently worked at a company where we rolled out Microsoft Copilot to over 10,000 people. And of course, we want to give them training. And it was very tempting to just give them training about, okay, do this button, it does this. You put it in this mode, it does this. Just features and functionality so they know how to use it. But that doesn't tell people sort of how it works, right? It doesn't give them any clue about the fact that really it's predicting the next word, the next token. It's really, as I said in my training to everyone in the company, it's never 100% sure. Every time that these generative AI systems give you an answer, you should imagine that it's saying before the answer, hey, I'm not 100% sure, but this is my best guess. Now, the truth is they make a lot of good guesses, but they're never 100% sure. And it's so easy to just take the answer and run with it. So it's what you're talking about. Now let's go forward. So you said that you had this epiphany that you should flip the script a little bit and start to ask, instead of the previous, how are we going to use it in criminal justice sentencing, for instance, but how can we uplift people and how can we make a positive impact with it? So what happened next?
What happened next is I got very excited about the technology and very excited about the things that we can do. And I sort of fell in love with precision healthcare and the ways in which we could now use algorithms and particularly data sets to just make the world healthier,
Okay.
make lives longer,
Okay.
really commit to this question of precision healthcare longevity. These were the things that I was thinking about, ways in which we can spend more time with each other and do the things that humans are supposed to do. So I fell in love with that aspect. I also fell in love with the fact that this was a technology could innovate imagination. I consider myself much of a creative. I actually began my early career as a broadcaster and a journalist, and I've worked in the creative space for a very long time.
How am I doing over here? I'm not really a broadcaster.
You're doing spectacularly.
Thanks.
You did it. Do this. Cheers.
Excellent.
So that work really sort of woke me up again to the great things that we can do with this technology. So my love for AI is how we can continuously innovate imagination and innovate intelligence. I love the things that I see that's happening with children with, autism, and the
Okay.
kinds of ways they could now use media technology and image recognition to interact in ways that they could not interact before, or persons who are visually impaired who are now using this technology. So anyone who has a disability, and I always say after 60 years old, we all acquire a disability, if it's our eyesight, if it's our hearing, if it's our knees, if it's something. I love what the technology can do for that. But I'm very concerned when we think about how children are using this technology, and we think about how this technology is exploitive, it's extractive, and how we're harvesting the brain data of children, or we are really trying to build a business model on the vulnerability of childhood development. So those are the things that keep me sort of up at night,
Okay.
asking myself, how do we let children explore, innovate, stretch their imaginations, do great things with the technology when it comes to their education, but how do we protect them
Right.
from what could happen as well?
Right. I mean, as with any powerful technology, whether it's dynamite or gunpowder or nuclear power or AI or a knife, right? Fire, it can be used for good or bad, and you have to be very careful with it. The children aspect is quite important. We've seen. I think you'll probably be happy. Everyone seems to be happy about the trend, very recent trends about the pendulum swinging back a little bit. School systems, I believe New York just said no more cell phones in school. Australia just passed a law that
16-year-old,
right,
yes, cannot
exactly.
access
So
social
we're
media.
seeing that move in that direction, but we still have a lot of work to do, right?
Most
I mean,
definitely.
yeah, we have to be really careful. So other than UVA, um, what are some of the other on your profile? There was a long list of different organizations. You're to pick at least one to tell everybody about that you're especially excited about besides your work at UVA.
Sure, definitely New America.
Okay.
And New America supports public interest technology. And public interest technology is a collaboration and an integration of some of the top universities across the United States, looking at ways in which we could use AI for good. We could use technology for good, technology in the public interest. And I'm very grateful to New America because included in my work at UVA, they do support me as well. So we've got to ensure that more and more people, the public, get involved in understanding the impact of technology, the impact of AI on society, very critical. And All Tech is Human. All Tech is Human has done an extraordinary amount of work building communities of practice around the many thorny problems when it comes to AI. And that organization is the one organization that really stands up this concept of community. We hear about equity, we hear about diversity, we hear about inclusion, and we hear about we need to get the people involved. We need to get communities involved. And they do that brilliantly. And of course, my work at Brookings, where I'm co-director of the AI Equity Lab, and the work that we're trying to do to ensure that the digital divide does not continue to get wider,
Okay.
that we stand up, democratizing the technology, building spaces where everyone could stand tall in this new generation called AI.
I'm going to come back to that one because I have a story that you're going to like from a interview I did earlier today. But that, by the way, is very impressive. Just rolled off of her tongue 3 things in addition to UVA that she's involved in, and that she's not. She could go further. So it's great to be speaking with you. So while you were doing your previous interview, just before this, we had a panel in the Dome, and I encourage you once they publish it on Forbes to go watch it because you'll love it. The title was "How do we have a pro-human AI?"
I was watching part of it before I
Okay,
went to the interview.
yeah, and they were wrestling with these same questions. And so I'll ask you one of the questions that they asked the audience. Some people think that because AI is becoming more and more intelligent, more and more able to act like us, that it should be given the legal status of a person, that AI should have some rights. How does that sit with you? How does that land with you?
Sure. The first time I heard something like that was when it was a conversation about robots, and the fact that as we are going more into this world of robots who are going to be living and sharing spaces with us, that individuals should not be able to abuse robots. If you get frustrated, you get angry, you can't slap your robot. You can't whip it, you can't chain it up. And it really made me think. And I said, you know what? Why not? There should be some level of protection for this, entity that's now engaging with us. There are some people, of course, I mean, I'm a criminologist, who
Right.
do not know how to behave, and they need to be checked.
Right.
When it comes to an algorithm, AI is an algorithm. An algorithm is data that has been now prepared using concepts like data science, using concepts like neural networks and reinforcement learning processes and procedures. I do not think that an algorithm is ever going to get human status. But I do know from the criminal justice system and the work that I'm doing at the moment, I do spend a lot of time with judges across the United States
Yep.
doing training, that the AI must be responsible. The AI must be accountable. It must be transparent because it's making big decisions, legal decisions,
Yep.
particularly if an algorithm goes rogue. It needs to stand responsibility, as well as whoever designed that algorithm and who's invested in that algorithm has a responsibility. So I believe that the AI definitely has a responsibility
Right.
that could be adjudicated in a courtroom. But to give it personality status, I think we're pushing it just a little bit there.
That's what the audience voted for as well. That it was a bit much, and it actually carries some risks, right? Because as soon as you say that an AI, future super intelligent AI algorithm has the same legal status as you and I do, then all of a sudden, why are we any more important than the algorithm, and why does it need to be pro-human, right? We lose the ability to sort of say, no, you've gone too far, and legally could say, who are you to tell me that I went too far? So we don't want to go in that direction, I think, most people. So the story I'll tell, and then I'm going to ask you to just riff a little bit about anything. I'll ask you two more questions. I'll tell you a story and ask you a question. So I just heard this today from somebody I was interviewing. There's an organization in San Francisco that takes and has for years taking high school graduates from some of the more disadvantaged areas in San Francisco. Mission District has the name Mission in it. I used to live there.
My daughter lives in San Francisco at the moment. Yeah, the Mission.
Yeah,
that's what they call it.
Right, and help them train to get jobs in the construction industry. Generally, somewhat low-level administrative jobs. Nonetheless, it's a great organization and has been having great success for years. They just have started to train them, in addition to all the other things that they've been doing for a long time, on some basic AI capabilities. Not and really, it's the ability to sort of use what has just happened in the last year, that non-technical people that have no math and science background at all are able to actually create an app now, right? There's a lot of ways now that people with no technical background can actually create a working software application. And they're starting to just blow the minds of the employers who were already happy with the quality of the recent graduates they were getting, and now they're able to leverage AI. And the point that the person was making, and my question to you is, here's an example of AI expanding our capabilities, right? It's taking young people, high school graduates, and who never have seen a computer, taken a programming language course, and now given them sort of a little bit of a superpower that they can do this. So that gives us a little bit of cause for optimism. Would you agree?
Most definitely. And that's fantastic. And that's AI for good. That's data science for good. And I'll just put in a little plug for Columbia University,
Okay.
where I was before I went to UVA as part of their Community Scholars Program. Columbia University has a Justice to Tech program that they've been doing for quite some time now. And of course, in the New York City criminal justice system, persons who are incarcerated, teaching them the technology, teaching them AI, and ensuring when they come out of incarceration, that they are able to negotiate for jobs at a high level. Usually when we think about reentry, people coming out of returning citizens, getting low-level jobs. But this way, they're being really hired at the highest level. So I support. I mean, there's so much good we can do with AI. There is so much that we could reimagine and reinvent and just reposition when it comes to the world. But we've got to have a very broad perspective. And we've got to have a perspective that is built on humanity, that's
Right.
built on inclusion, that says, this is life changing, this is civilized changing, because it's already changing the way we think, the way we interact, how much exercise we have or do not have,
Right.
how much time we spend on the screen. There's so many kids right now who do not know how to ride a bike. But, growing up, that's one of the first things that we did for a certain measure of independence. Look, mommy, no hands.
Right. No training wheels. Right.
And we are gone, because that was a form of independence. That was a form of autonomy, agency. You could now join the other kids, and you're now part of a bike riding. Kids are not doing that. They're riding virtually. They're having virtual riding.
I didn't know that. That's
right?
a little depressing.
So we can do great things, but we've got to understand, and you said it, AI needs to be humble.
Yep.
You said it.
I did that yesterday.
And that touched me.
Yep. Excellent. All right. Well, on that note, I would just say this has really been fun. I'm glad that we were able to end the day together with a little champagne and a little AI.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. So we're signing off from Davos, Imagination in Action.